first accounts and balance sheet for the new company. This is for the period to the 31st of March 1992 and represents only 4 months trading. I am very pleased indeed to see that we've actually achieved a pre-tax profit. As you can see from here, it's a profit of £1,058,000. This is good, having regard to the recession.
It's just over a year since West Midlands Travel completed negotiations in what's been the most innovative buyout in the history of employee buyouts. As shareholders, you have before you the accounts and balance sheet of West Midlands Travel for the period ending the 31st of March 1992. Before you consider them, let's just recap on the background to the buyout. December the 4th, 1991, saw the completion of the purchase of the company by the directors on behalf of its employees, in a move that's attracted plenty of comment and publicity. So, what led the directors and employees to take such a momentous decision? Was it the right decision? 1 year after the event, how is the company performing? In the next few minutes, we're going to be answering those and other questions. To understand the background of the buyout, we have to go back to 1986, the year of deregulation. Since deregulation, West Midlands Travel, like every other bus operator, has had to operate in an increasingly competitive environment where market forces rule. West Midlands Travel was one of the great success stories of deregulation. But with the government's decision to privatise all bus companies, West Midlands Travel was faced with the possibility of being broken into smaller companies to stimulate competition. The alternative was for the company to accept privatisation under an employee share ownership plan, an option that had already been taken up successfully by companies like Yorkshire Ryder and Busways. The West Midlands Passenger Transport Authority, who owned West Midlands Travel, agreed to the sale, and with government go-ahead, the way was clear for the ESOP to proceed. So, the threat of breakup of the company was an important reason why West Midlands Travel should become employee-owned. But there were other important factors that influenced the company's decision to go ahead with ESOP. Protection of jobs and conditions of service was also high on the list of priorities, as well as safeguarding employee pensions. A buyout would also secure the company against the possibility of a hostile takeover bid by any other public transport operator. So, 4 excellent reasons to go ahead with a buyout. But how do you put a price on a successful bus company? And how did the company set about raising the £71 million that was needed? Before the sale could go ahead, the PTA made certain conditions in order to maintain its own public transport objectives. The PTA's requirements were that the sale should have no adverse effect on fares, the size of the network, level of service, and employment levels. In addition, the Passenger Transport Authority also stated that the size of the company should be maintained, that the new company should be 100% employee-owned, and that a new all-operators bus-only travel card should be available in the West Midlands Travel area. Taking all these factors into account, a price for the sale was set. To buy its shares from West Midlands Passenger Transport Authority, West Midlands Travel would require £71 million. So, how was the £71 million raised? Well, in much the same way as you might take out a loan to top up the money you already have to buy a house. West Midlands Travel already had £27 million in cash set aside, and therefore needed to raise the balance of £44 million in new loans. As the company already had £28 million in existing loan obligations, the total of new and existing loans amounted to £72 million on day one. With that level of financial commitment to meet, it was important the new West Midlands Travel should quickly start showing a profit under employee ownership. This AGM has before it the statutory accounts for the 4 months to the 31st of March 1992. And over that time, we can see that through careful management, the new company made a profit of £700,000 after tax. So the money's been raised, the company has been bought, and it's showing a small profit. How's that going to benefit you, the employees? Well, a scheme has been set up to distribute shares in the company to employees through Employee Benefit Trusts, or EBTs. This is being done in stages. On day one, the 4th of December 1991, 25.5 million shares were immediately put in trust in EBT1 for the permanent benefit of you, the employees. And on the same day, 8.5 million shares were individually distributed to company employees. In May 1992, the profit-sharing scheme distributed a further 8 million shares to employees. Upon distribution of the next slice of 8 million shares in May 1993, West Midlands Travel's employees will directly own 24.5 million shares between them. By May 1993, that gives a total of 50 million shares. That's half the company owned by you, the employees. A further 5 slices of 8 million shares will be distributed each year, giving a total of 90 million shares by 1998. A further 10 million shares will be held in the approved share option scheme, adding up to a grand total of 100 million shares. Because of the size of the initial debt, each of the shares had a minimum value at first. However, in December 1992, the company's auditors carried out the first share valuation and put a value of 14 pence per share. This means that every 1,000 shares you own individually is worth £140. I asked James Isaac, the chairman of West Midlands Travel, what that means.
It's a very satisfactory start. It shows we're profitable. And that's so important. The valuation means that us, the company that is, now worth £14 million. But profitability is also important because it gives us a base for investing in assets in the future. And we need to replace our buses and other equipment if we're going to maintain our successful start to this first year. Now, it also gives confidence to the people who backed us. That's the financiers and others, and it provides sound credit. But I think, most important of all, is that it gives our employees a nest egg, and it means that they've got something to look forward to, and if we carry on as we're doing now, that nest egg will become increasingly valuable.
So, with each employee owning a stake in the company's future, it's in everybody's interest to ensure that the new West Midlands Travel continues to be a success. But how successful has the company been in the years since the buyout? We'll start by considering some of the problems the directors and senior management have had to face. Like any other company, West Midlands Travel has felt the knock-on effects of the recession. Income from fares is down £2 million on the year as a direct result of the recession, with a consequential effect on profits. At the same time, the company has had to face increasing competition for passengers, with rival companies undercutting fares. West Midlands Travel's own necessary fare increases have met with resistance from passengers, and the introduction of Centro's Busmaster ticket, which West Midlands Travel was forced to join as a condition of the purchase, has also cost the company a lot of money. Another blow has been Centro's slashing £3 million off OAP concessions, including discontinuing the use of OAP passes during the evening peak period. And a public inquiry by the Traffic Commissioner has added to the company's problems. But it's not all gloom, because the company's achievements for the year are also looking pretty impressive. With me as Chief Executive and Managing Director, Mr. Don Colston, and Mrs. Shirley Price, Employee Director. First of all, Don Colston, as we've seen, it's been a difficult first year, but is the situation showing any signs of improvement?
There are many encouraging signs, yes. And I think you have to balance what we've just seen against the important fact that we've not only maintained conditions of employment for our employees during the year, but also negotiated a 2-year index-linked pay increase. The pay award on the 1st of October 1992 of 4.1% was actually above the rate of inflation of 3.6%.
So how are you achieving that, bearing in mind the reduction in fare income?
Well, obviously, we've been looking to tighten our belts in other areas and have managed to bring down our overheads quite significantly. Tyburn Road Works, for instance, has been rationalised with not a single job lost, and in fact an improvement in premises and working conditions for the staff, all of whom have transferred to other premises in the company.
Well, Dennis Gilman is over at the Walsall Works, one of the transferred premises. Dennis, you're the employee director representing the engineering workforce. How did they react to this?
Well, there was a great deal of concern, but recognising that the West Midlands Travel is not immune from the recession, our main aim was to avoid job losses, which we achieved, and I believe that the workforce responded very positively.
And have things settled down now?
I believe so. There's a very good working atmosphere in the new premises.
Thank you, Dennis, and the workshop looks very impressive indeed. Don, are the banks happy with the way things are going?
Well, we are on course to reach the profit targets set for us by the banks, and hopefully will continue to do so each year. Yes, I'd say the banks are quite satisfied with our performance. But most importantly, we've been on time with all our loan repayments, which is essential if we're to retain the confidence of our financiers.
Now, we've seen the problems you've had regarding the loss of OAP concession money. Does that mean that we're really looking at the end of free travel for OAPs in the future?
I certainly hope not, but you never know. The problem has been that we've lost about £3 million of the OAP concessionary payments from Centro. Obviously, we're very concerned about that, and we've looked at ways of getting around the problem. What we've come up with is our afternoon extra, an OAP pass that costs just £20 a year. That's 38 pence per week, and this allows use on our buses during the afternoon peak periods.
Well, let's see what George Brooms thinks. He's the employee director who represents the drivers. George is with some of his colleagues and he asked them about their reaction to the new pass. George, what's the verdict?
Generally, the drivers are very concerned about the variety of passes on issue, but this one is selling very well and they know that's good for business.
And the OAPs themselves?
The drivers tell me afternoon extra is very popular with the OAP passengers.
Well, George, thank you, and I hope the company sells lots more of them. Now, Don, I mentioned earlier that safeguarding existing employees' pensions was a high priority. What are you doing about pensions for new employees?
I'm pleased to say that we've introduced a company pension scheme for new starters, and hopefully this will be another success for us.
Shirley, as employee director for non-manual staff, how have you found employees reacting to the pension situation?
Protecting the local government superannuation scheme was one of the main issues in the buyout and was happily resolved for existing employees. However, the government would not allow new employees to join the LGSS, and I am pleased to say that the company has in place a pension scheme for all new employees.
Now, George, Dennis and yourself make regular visits to all garages and premises. What impressions have you gained from these visits?
Initially, the uncertain future following the buyout had an adverse effect on morale, and our visits have helped to reassure our colleagues. It is sometimes difficult for them to understand the reasons for some of the decisions taken by the board, and we try to explain these matters. Another advantage has been our visits provide the opportunity to influence the board by discussing views expressed by the employees.
Thank you, Shirley, and I wish you every success for the future. Briefly then, Don, how would you summarise your first year as an employee-owned company?
Well, taking everything into account, the value of the company has gone up and should continue to do so, providing we hit our bank targets and pay our debts on time. We've succeeded in retaining the confidence of our financiers and our suppliers, which in the current economic climate is very gratifying indeed.
And the future?
We've got to look for sustained, steady performance. There's no room for complacency. We're still feeling the effects of the recession and increasing competition. And we still have some £50 million to repay over the next 5 years. So we can't sit back and relax. We shall soon need to spend a lot of money to replace the fleet. We've started to make profits, but we need to make a lot more money. I believe this company has a secure future, but we've got to tread very carefully.
Well, on that note, Don Colston, Shirley Price, thank you. So, West Midlands Travel is proving that even in today's difficult climate, that an employee-owned company has the potential to become a future financial success. As to the future, well, that really is in your hands.